Hey everyone, it's Sherry Vegas here, and I'm going to be showing you my top 3 ways to pour Eco Resin to create a really cool marble slash swirl effect. I'm just starting out by measuring out my Eco Resin, and I always like to do this separately, so measuring out the powder and the liquid just to make sure that they're accurate before I do mix them in together. Now there are multiple different types of Eco Resins out there on the market, so whatever brand that you like best can work for all of these different pour techniques I'm going to show you. In this video I'm going to be focusing on the different pouring styles, but if you do want more in-depth videos about Eco Resin and how to work with it, like sanding, sealing, different pouring techniques, and just general information, I will link a playlist up above as I've got a lot of videos on that. But all I'm doing right now is I am mixing my powder into my liquid. I always like to put powder into liquid and kind of think of it as baking a cake, where you're going to add bits of powder at a time, mix that on through, and then keep doing that process until you've got the full amount of your powder and liquid combined. I also like to use a sieve because I find it just gets me a lot less lumps, but it's not a necessary requirement. For this pouring technique, I'm going to be doing what's called a dirty pour. If you've ever worked with resin before, you would have heard that reference. And basically a dirty pour is where you split off your Eco Resin into different amounts and then you color those. So I'm using Flamingo Pink from Archery Creation. I'm also going to be using a yellow and a red just to create a really beautiful peachy tone, and then I'm going to be leaving some just uncolored so that way it sets white. Once I've added my dye into my Eco Resin, I just want to make sure I give it a really good mix to make sure all of that dye is evenly dispersed through my Eco Resin. When it comes to the dirty pour, you can either get a new clean cup and pour all your colors into that, or you can use one of these pouring spouts where you pour each color into the different sections and pour it out, or you can do what I'm doing where I'm using my large jug and I'm going to just be pouring the other 2 colors onto my third. Now it's important that you don't mix these colors together because then you're just going to end up with one color and not with these swirls. And then as I pour it out, you can see all of these colors start to blend together and create a really beautiful marble dirty pour effect. For this next marble pour, it is similar to the dirty pour but slightly different. So I've mixed up my Eco Resin and I'm going to be dividing that out. I'm coloring one part my peachy color again, so using that yellow and red dye. This time, instead of adding all of my colors into one jug and pouring it out, I'm going to be keeping them separate but pouring them at the same time. With this technique, you'll have less blending of colors. I also like to halfway through switch sides just to make sure that I'm not going to end up with half my item white and half my item in that peachy tone. So by switching sides halfway through, it then will create a really beautiful marble effect the whole way around. And if you want to know, the molds that I am using today are from Nicole Molds, and I do have a discount code that I'll add in the description below. But I do really like these molds because a lot of them do come with these hard shells that clip into place and hold the shape of your item really well. And the final marble pour that I'm going to be doing today is very different from the first 2. I've mixed up my batch of Eco Resin and now I'm just going to be dropping 2 different colors. So I'm dropping a green and a blue and doing 5 drops in total. So 3 of blue, 2 of the green. And I'm not going to mix it. I'm just going to give a really slight push through with my spatula just to make sure that some of that dye does go to the bottom of my white and I don't end up with all of my color just on the surface. But less is more because as you do pour it out, it's going to blend a lot. But this gives you a super marble effect and I do really love how this one turns out. You can obviously just use one color or you could use 5 colors. It's really up to you on how much you want to use and how marbly you want it to be. And once your Eco Resin has set, you can then demold them. So that will depend on the brand that you're using. But this one that I am working with set within about half an hour to 40 minutes. And then they were really easy to pull out of the molds. And these are the 3 different marble pouring techniques. So this first one is where I've dropped all the colors in and just let them swirl. The second one is where I've done that dirty pour technique, so you can see I've got a really beautiful blending of those colors going the whole way through. And this last one was where I poured the two different colors individually. But please let me know in the comments which pour was your favorite.